Hoops Heaven proudly brings to you Basketball Hustle.
Ellis fumbled the ball. 2 on the shot clock. Goes up a prayer. Yes! As he was falling to the ground, it's a 3. He shot it literally from the hip.
Definitely a highlight.
Here come the Billikens. 4 on 2. McCall. Ellis. Left corner.
We missed out.
Bang! From way down under. Cody Ellis. Reddick brings low out away from the basket. Stolen away by Cody Ellis. One man to beat. To the hole. He's fouled. Layup. Good. Whistle foul. Held the basket.
Ellis for the reverse. Through fingertips. What a move. Ellis drops in a bomb.
I love seeing Cody Ellis coming out feeling good.
Ellis. Cody Ellis. Ellis. Pull-up jumper. Cody Ellis. Bang. Cody Ellis, can he stand and deliver? Cody Ellis.
Now it's time for another episode of Hoops Heaven's Basketball Hustle.
Hello and welcome. Hoops Heaven's Basketball Hustle, and round 1 in the NBL is in the books, but almost all that everyone's talking about is the Adelaide 36ers, and they haven't even played an NBL game just yet, Cody. So we'll get to their historic performance beating the Phoenix Suns. We'll get through all of the action in what we saw in round 1 of the NBL. We'll have a look to round 2 of the NBL. We'll get to our awards. So we've got the Galen Award, the Damo Award, we've got our Player of the Year Award. We've got some big names helping us out with those. But the men you have all tuned in to hear from, I'm Chris Pike, but my co-host, excited by what he saw across the weekend, I'm pretty sure. Cody Ellis, what springs to mind when you first think of what you've seen over the last few days?
Oh, how good is it to have basketball back? No, look, just an amazing round from top to bottom in all the games. And then obviously seeing Adelaide go over and do their thing in the States, as well as the Opals getting it done. So, yeah, just an awesome week of basketball.
It sure was. We'll get to all of it shortly, and we're here thanks to Hoops Heaven. So if you happen to be in Perth, go and check them out on Murray Street in the Perth City. And if you live anywhere else, or if you do live in Perth and you just want to go check them out online, head to hoopseven.com.au. We couldn't be doing this without their support, Cody, so we thank Jason and his team immensely. Now, we've got a big show. We're going to hear from Scott Ninnis because he's going to be announcing our winner of the Galen Best Team Men Award each and every week. But what a perfect time to catch up with him because his Adelaide 36ers did something quite remarkable on Monday morning our time, and not just the fact that they beat the Phoenix Suns, that's a remarkable feat, on its own, but the way they did it, they almost did it playing an NBA style of game. They shot the 3-ball unbelievably. I mean, I think everyone watching would have thought that they caught fire early and probably can't keep this going, but they did.
They
71 points in the first half, but they kept it going. I mean, they still had another 63 in the second half, and they ended up winning the game 134-124. It was a remarkable showcase, but a remarkable show of what the NBL is capable of and how far this league has come, that a team from here can go over there and do that against a Phoenix team that, is star-studded. Have a look at some of these names. Devin Booker, Chris Paul, Cameron Payne, Mikal Bridges, DeAndre Ayton, and some guys that we know pretty well, Torrey Craig and Jock Landale. They weren't playing a bunch of duds either. What did you think of what they did?
Oh, it was amazing. It was, I think that's how CJ's recruited, is that's the kind of style of play he wants to play in the NBL. And, obviously going over and doing it on an NBA court and in front of the world, it was very special. And look, you're right. I think the fact that Phoenix had their full roster available and played, look, they didn't play their 35, 40 minutes like the superstars usually would, but they were still out there. Damn. They were still out there, still had a full squad, and Adelaide took it to them and, kind of put, I think, the league on notice, which is awesome.
Absolutely. I mean, take a look at the three-point performance from the team. So they went 24 of 43 as a team. Craig Randall went 9 of 17. Robert Frank, 6 of 10. Antonius Cleveland, not a renowned shooter, he still went 3 or 4. Daniel Johnson, 2 or 3, but unfortunately he got hurt early in the third quarter, so I hope that he's not too bad. Sunday Detch hit another couple. So Randall ended up with 35 points, Frank's 32, Cleveland 22, DJ 15. Kai Sotto had some good moments, especially after DJ went off, and had 11. But Mitch McCarron, unbelievable, setting everybody up, 16 assists. Gee, it was exciting to watch.
Oh, it was. It really was. And look, I'm sure when we talk to Scott about this, that he'll be just as nervous as I'm sure everyone in Adelaide is of the imports, possibly not even getting back on the flight back to Adelaide. I think they definitely showed that they belong on an NBA court.
Is it a real possibility that you think they get signed?
I'm not sure. It's a fairly quick turnaround. I think they play Oklahoma
Friday morning
our time. There you go. And then I'm sure they're straight back on a plane back to here. So, look, I'm not 100% sure. It's the NBA. They can work fairly quick. So if a team is really after them, then I'm sure that it can happen within a few hours, really. But who knows? I'm sure there'll be lots of Adelaide fans hoping that they lay an egg against Oklahoma and all three of those guys come back on the plane with them.
We'll talk to Scott about it a bit later as well and get his thoughts, and I'll get your thoughts on what will happen against Josh Giddey and Oklahoma City on Friday as well. Before we get to the NBL action from round one, the Women's World Cup wrapped up on the weekend as well, and what a sight it was to see Lauren Jackson light it up in the bronze medal game. The Opals come out and win the bronze medal. I'm sure they were disappointed not to be playing for gold, but fantastic performance in Sydney at home to still take out the bronze. And obviously USA proved far too good for China as well to win gold. And an amazing sight as well to see 15,895 people at that final in Sydney, and over the week 145,000 people turned out. That was a great result and a great tournament overall.
Oh, absolutely. They were unbelievable tournament. Obviously very upsetting that they couldn't go and face the US women in the gold medal game, because that would have been a heck of a game, I think. I think just the way the girls were playing defense the whole tournament would have really shook that USA team, and it was amazing to see, you know, the GOAT Lauren Jackson do her thing in that bronze medal game, and it was really cool to see the whole bench get around it, and you know, obviously the last time she'll pull on the green and gold, and I was watching it, and she had those 2 free throws to get her 30 points, and I was watching on Fox and the Fox KO.
That's right, I did. Yes.
So I was not happy with that. So looks like it's going to be KO from now on. But you know, just missed a historic moment in basketball history, but that's okay. You know, that was amazing, and to see the turnout, the crowds at every single game was great.
Yeah, that was fantastic, and good luck stopping her in the WNBL this season too.
Yeah, good luck. I mean, I felt sorry for everyone having a garter in the NBL1, so I feel sorry for the same in the WNBL.
At the same time, it's going to be a lot of fun watching. So the WNBL season tips off in about a month's time, so make sure everybody gets around that. But let's turn our focus to the NBL now, Cody. We saw round one tip off over the weekend. We saw our first 5 games of action and some fascinating results, some big performances. We'll get our votes from Matty Knight later on about who stood out from him as well. I want to start with the South East Melbourne Phoenix though, with you, because on paper they had no rights to beat the Tasmania Jack Jumpers on Saturday in the season opener. They didn't have Ryan Brokov, didn't have Joe Chi yet, who's not in the country. Trey Cal, Gary Brown, their 2 imports, are still out injured. Mitch Creek hadn't played a preseason game, so he had no right to come out and play as well as he did. But they were terrific. The Jack Jumpers not so much, but with Kyle Adnam leading the way with 30 points, that was a performance full of heart from a team that didn't always show that same spirit probably last season.
Yeah, not at all. I think, especially towards the end of the season last year, you didn't see that at all.
Until they ended the Wildcats season.
Well, yeah, exactly. So, but they had something riding on that one for sure. So, no, look, seeing Kyle Adnam step up, as he always does when there seems to be injuries. You know, it seems to be a team that's been riddled with injuries the past, season and a half. And, whenever you've got 4 or 5 guys out, he seems to be the one to step up, and he certainly did that. 30 piece, 6 or 9 from 3. Tassie didn't really have an answer for him, and I thought he did a really good job of just controlling the tempo and controlling the game. And Creek looked like he was running in mud late in that fourth, as you can imagine. That's fairly standard when you haven't really played a game.
Happy with his blonde hair?
It's very different, isn't it? Yeah. You can certainly pick him out on the court.
Absolutely, but no, great job by the Phoenix, and they'll start to get some troops back now as well. And it's probably interesting how they now blend everyone back in, because everyone that stepped up on Saturday all had a role to play. Let's go to the Cairns Taipans. They played on Monday night in Tasmania, and as we've talked about, Adam Ford wants this team to play an up-tempo style. They want to be a fast-paced team. They want to be shooting a lot of three-pointers, and didn't work great for them in the first half. I think they were 2 of 12 at half-time, but that third quarter performance shows exactly why 40's built this team and what they're capable of. They had 39 points in the third quarter alone. They went 9 of 13 from three-point land, and they did that without probably their best three-point shooter, Jonah Antonio, who didn't play. They ended up winning the game, but that third quarter shows that this team could be pretty exciting.
Yeah, it can be very dangerous. And you heard a comment from 40 saying, last season they had games where they didn't have 39 and a half.
Yes.
So, look, he's definitely built them to be a scoring machine. Long, athletic, quick, and can shoot the ball. So if they can figure it out on the defensive end and get their running game going, they're going to be able to beat any team in this league. I think that was certainly putting the league on notice a bit.
Absolutely. Talking about putting the league on notice, the biggest shoes to fill of anybody this season is Derek Walton Jr. at the Sydney Kings, because he's replacing the MVP from last season, Jalen Adams. But boy, oh boy, what we saw from him on Saturday in Wollongong was incredible. I'm not going to say he can be better than Jalen Adams, but his impact could be just as significant, because he has an all-round game that I'm not sure anyone can stop in this league, because he can go inside, he's pretty strong and can finish out the rim. We saw he can get to the foul line a lot, and he can shoot the ball as well. He had 32 points. The Kings had a big night to start their championship defence, and he was at the forefront of all of it.
Oh, he certainly was. And look, he can score in an array of ways. He's really fun to watch. He's really composed. I think for me the most impressive thing was it was late in the fourth. He was being guarded and drove down the side of the paint, kind of stopped, looked back middle, and then went back baseline, finished with his left, got an N1. Yeah. Just as a smaller guy, especially in this league with the long athletic defenders we have now, I think if he's able to do that inside as well as knocking down the threes, which everyone, as soon as it left his hand, looked automatic, he's going to be tough to guard, and he's going to be a nightmare for some people.
Yep, absolutely. It was exciting. I think we were all a little bit concerned about how they would go without Jalen Adams, but they obviously knew what they were doing, because they've got another good one. Perth Wildcats, they made a statement. I think we all expected big things from the Brisbane Bullets this season, and let's not ride the Bullets off yet after one game, but the Wildcats looked mighty impressive at home. They looked motivated, they looked hungry, and they looked like they were a well-drilled machine. Bryce Cotton, he caught fire in the first half, 17 points he had at halftime, but then he, again, as we talked about during the Blitz, he turned facilitator in the second half, and he had a lot of players around him that stepped up. There's a lot to like about that Wildcats performance. Probably the most impressive for me is that they probably had 7 or 8 guys that all had a really good game.
Yeah, no, they were really good. And if you had have stopped the game after the first 5 minutes, you would have said Brisbane win this by 30. But no, look, Brisbane's going to take a while to gel, and you got guys like Sobes out there that looked like he hadn't played in a while, which he obviously hasn't. Bainesy, very similar. First half, I think he had 2 points, a rebound, and an assist or something like that. But
then he had 7 points in about the first 2 minutes of the third quarter.
Yeah. But you can see the impact that he's going to have on that team and in this league. Once they've all got their legs under them and they start gelling better, they're going to be tough. But it was good to see the Cats back on track, and Bryce being Bryce might have picked up a new Damo nickname with all the steals as well.
Yes.
But no, he had just a typical Bryce game, in just amazing impact across the board, and the Cats as a whole just played really, really good basketball after that first 5 minutes.
Yes, no, they did. It was like the Wildcats of old in a lot of ways, where they just, once they get on top of you in front of the Red Army, the momentum just carries them away, and as you know, all too well, Cody. Jack Jumpers were another story out of the weekend, going 0-2. Concerns about them, so we'll get Matty Knight's thoughts on them a bit later, because he has a real soft spot for his Tasmanian team. So we'll find out what his concerns might be after their tough start. But the results from the weekend, and I'll see what else jumped out at you, Cody, now that we've gone through probably the main talking points. It started Saturday night. South East Melbourne Phoenix, as we talked about, beat the Tasmanian Jack Jumpers 84-79. Then second up, like we talked about, Sydney Kings, they put up 106 points to beat the Illawarra Hawks 97. And then on Sunday, Melbourne United went to overtime against the New Zealand Breakers, and they won 101-97. Perth Wildcats 87-73 over the Brisbane Bullets. And then Monday night, with the Cairns Taipans lighting it up, again, I without it being in front of me, I'd be amazed if they even got to 100 points at all last season. But they put up 106 points to beat the Jack Jumpers 84 in front of a packed house down in Hobart as well. So they did it on the road. Aside from what we have talked about already, Cody, what jumps out at you about the rest of the action?
Oh, look, I guess the one game is probably the Melbourne and New Zealand game. First overtime game of the season. I think even though it was game 3, I think it could have been the third overtime game of the season, really. Yeah. But no, look, I think New Zealand did a really good job of taking it to Melbourne. But Melbourne is going to be one of those teams that is going to take time to gel as well. Yeah. New Zealand, same. Lots of moving pieces in both those teams. But United have done a really good job of recruiting again, as they always do, putting up 101 points in a game that was a bit back and forth, and it was tough to kind of find a bit of momentum anyway. Ratham Mays came out and was tough. He was...
Maybe we've underestimated him. Maybe he didn't get to play as big a role because Tyler Harvey had the ball so often last year with the Hawks. But now with Shea Ely not there with Melbourne at the moment, he had the ball in his hands a lot, and he did well as a point guard because he still had 9 assists. But he showed he could score and shoot. 33 points, 9 assists. You would take that every day as your import point guard, and we probably don't expect him to start once Shea Ely comes back. But maybe he should.
Look, and that's a tough one. That's one that Vickerman is going to have to figure out once Shea's back. But look, I think Shea will be in that starting lineup, and then you've got XRM coming off the bench as that punch, and that's huge for him. I think he did really well in kind of like what Kyle Adam did and stepping up with the outs that they had, and Goulding coming out being Chris Goulding, and geez, he'll want that little mid-range back to seal the game. Yep. I thought that was down. As soon as it left his hand, he was wide open. And
should have he just taken the 3 because he was shooting so well from 3? Obviously, in theory, the mid-range shot should be a bit easier, but maybe he's a better 3-point shooter.
Yeah, possibly. I think he was probably more open than he thought he was going to be. But look, they ended up getting it done in overtime. And look, I think again they're going to be a team that's tough all season. Look, really impressed with New Zealand with the way they came out, and they'll be looking forward to getting back home and in front of their home crowd, and I'm sure that's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll talk about that a bit later when we get to our preview, because on Friday that's going to be quite the event. I'm pretty excited about that. A couple of other players I wanted to mention. I wanted to get your thoughts on Lockie Dent, who came out and he gave the Hawks a chance against the Kings on Saturday night, and I was thrilled for him. I watched a lot of his NBL1 games at the Brisbane Capitals this year, and he did that sort of thing at the NBL1 level where he went through periods where he just couldn't miss. He would just knock down 3-point shot after 3-point shot, but it's a totally different thing to then come out and do it at NBL level. He's never had this chance to. That's probably the most shots he's ever taken in an NBL game, and he didn't miss. Yeah. So he went 5 of 5 from 3, and I think he subbed himself out for a couple of minutes in the fourth quarter because he needed to get his breath back, but he didn't quite end up being the match winner. But gee, it was fun to see him almost do it. Yeah, no, he was awesome, and Lockie came and trained with us a couple of times when I was there, and was a bit of a training play with us. And I mean, you could even see it back then. He's one of those guys that is just full of confidence, and like you said, it's a lot of these guys coming in from the NBL1 seasons that they've had just riding the confidence of that season, and it's really cool to see. It's awesome to see the young guys stepping up. Yeah, look, I think there was a couple of times that he probably could have seen the ball again and didn't, and I definitely let that be known on my social media because it happened in another game as well. Yeah. And yeah, look, that's something that frustrates me is when you look off the guy that's got the hot hand, and he certainly had that. And there was a couple of times in transition where he was wide open on the wing, and I thought he could have had another look, but didn't. Well, it happened in that very same game with DJ Vasilovic. Yep. He caught fire, hit those 3 threes in a row, and there was no way he was going to miss if you got him the ball again. Yeah. Or he's going to keep shooting anyway. Why don't we in this league go back to guys when they're hot? We just don't see guys go off for 40 and 50 points, even though they're capable of it when they catch fire. Why don't we?
I'm not sure. It's something that's very frustrating. And look, it's not just this league. It's leagues everywhere. Yeah. Why
did it used to happen? I mean, Andrew Gaze, when he caught fire, not
every game
he would, but you wouldn't be able to get the ball off him. Yeah. Brett Maher was the same. Shane Heal, all of the greats of the NBL, and you go beyond that to the NBA as well. When guys catch fire in the past, you just keep feeding them the ball and let them shoot themselves out until they are no longer on fire. but it doesn't happen anymore. I mean, any idea why?
Yeah, no, it doesn't happen as often. And look, it's one of those things that you don't want to be stuck in mud looking for the same thing over and over, because defenses know how to adjust better now, right? So DJ hits 3 straight threes and all of a sudden you've got someone sitting in his pocket and it's tough to get him the ball again, right? So I think the big thing needs to be running plays for them, but at that point they've got to realise that it's not going to be for them. It's going to be for the guy screening, or he's going to kick it and hit the pop guy, or something along those lines. But I think they need to be more of a focus when they've got the hot hand, even if it's to be a distraction. Because like I said, the defense is key in so much after someone hits 2 or 3 shots in a row.
Well, and you almost want them to come and double team him, because that frees up the rest of your offense.
Exactly. And there's weapons everywhere on all these teams now. But it's tough to do that. It's tough to throw doubles at players because everyone can shoot now. It's just the way basketball is. So, look, I think that needs to be a bit more of a focus. Definitely looking to the hot guy.
In the case of the Hawks, how much of do you think it's Jacob Jackamus that should have instructed his team to keep feeding Lockie Dent, and even George King as well, who was shooting really well? He went 4 of 6 himself. Or is it up to Tyler Harvey and Justin Robinson, who for the night they went 1 of 16 from 3? Did they need to stop shooting and give it to the guys who were shooting well?
Yeah, and look, one of the examples that I was talking about with Lockie was Tyler Harvey down the middle in his usual little floater that he usually makes. So, and that's something that is just automatic. It's just second nature. He doesn't even think about not shooting that. But when you're struggling, I think finding other ways to get yourself involved and make an impact, especially at home, and a young local kid, and seeing him go off, you see him out the corner of your eye, especially after he's gone 5 of 5 from 3, hit him. But no, look, I think that a lot of this stuff happens during the run of the game, and it's not during a timeout, So I think it needs to be more on the point guards, and the point guards need to be able to read and figure out that he's got the hot hand. He's just made 2, 3, 4 shots in a row. Let's go back to him, run a play for him, and do it that way. Because a lot of the times when people go on a tear like that, a team will call a timeout to try and adjust. So that can be brought up then, but I think it needs to be solely on the point guard. Yeah,
I think so too. And it was frustrating watching to see Robinson come back into the game after he was hurt for a little while to sub in for Dent, and then come in and take a bad shot and not look healthy, and then they lost all the momentum and they couldn't catch up from there. I want to stick with that game for a second longer. I had a lot of fun watching Justin Simon enjoy himself playing against the Hawks in Wollongong for the first time, but I also enjoyed Wani Spucker's game as well, because he got his wish to have the ball in his hands a bit more and to show a bit more of his offensive flair there for the Hawks as well. Both those guys, I think, will fit in really well at their new teams, and it was fun watching them against their old sides.
Oh, for sure. And look, Wani, I think this was probably a good move for him, moving down the road. And you could see, like, he's oozing with confidence now, which is great. And I think once he sees a couple of his outside shots go down, because he can shoot the ball. He hasn't shown it in the NBL yet, but he can shoot the piss out of the ball. Like, he is a really good shooter. So once he sees a couple of those go down, he's going to be tough, because he's got such a quick first step. And he's going to be able to get on the rim, and with the athletic guys he's got around him, it's going to be all good. And then on the defensive end, it's going to be good as well, because he's going to be the leader of that unit, like he was at Sydney. But yeah, look, it's always fun seeing guys that had success go to another squad and play against their former teams, and you always go into those games with a bit more of a chip on your shoulder.
What sort of response would have Simon received over the fence on Saturday night from his old home fans?
Oh, I'm sure it wasn't pretty. But no, look, as a player, you love that.
Some guys embrace it, and he seemed to love it.
Oh yeah, he's one of those guys that would embrace that side of things, and you can't take that sort of stuff to heart. It doesn't matter what you do. If you change teams and you come back to the city, then you're always going to cop it, and it's the way it is, and you've got to be able to embrace it, and he certainly did that.
Is there ever a building where you really copped it? Do you ever remember anyone getting stuck into you?
Oh,
did you ever cop Simon Devlin's treatment?
No, not really. But I copped it here in Perth a lot. So,
and I noticed Simon Devlin even got stuck into Aaron Baines, and they had a bit of a chat a chat on Sunday, which is, I don't know if it's a great thing or not, but it's It's entertaining nonetheless.
Yeah, no, the camera caught that one, didn't it? So yeah, no, look, I think it's one of those things. You know, obviously with my family ties to the Wildcats, I certainly copped it the most here, and yeah, that's fair. But you know, it's all part of it. It's all part of the fan experience. It's all part of the.
Some of it probably come from some of the Ellis family, did it?
Probably, yeah, exactly. They just masked their voice a little bit, and I'm sure they were the ones spitting slurs at me more than anyone. So.
All right, Cody, I think that pretty much covers what we saw in round 1 of the NBL, but we've got our awards to dish out. So we'll get our Best Defensive Player award from Damien Martin again this season, and when we come back, we'll have a chat to Matty Knight and get his Player of the Year award votes for round 1, and also Scott Ninnis from the Adelaide 36ers will get his Best Team Man, the Galen Award winner for this week, and we'll get his thoughts on what he saw from Adelaide as well, because I'm sure he's feeling pretty good about things right now. So when we come back, we'll get into our awards for round 1.
Sounds good.
Okay, back on Hoop 7's Basketball Hustle, and really excited to have Matty Knight giving our votes in our Player of the Year award each and every week here on the show. Matty, how do we find you this week? And gee, it's been a big few days of basketball.
It's been a great way for the NBL to start the season. A lot of close games, and then you got Adelaide knocking off the number 1 seed in the West over in America. So it's a great week for the NBL.
Did you ever think you would see an NBL team go over and beat an NBA team, especially one as stacked as that Phoenix Suns team?
Yeah, no. Obviously, a couple of years ago, Perth gave Denver a run for their money, but to go over and beat the number 1 seeded team last year, and a lot of their players. Most of the players played, so full credit to CJ and Adelaide 36ers to go over there and get the win.
Absolutely. Before we get your votes on our Player of the Year award, what are your memories of your battles with Cody over the years? You had some fascinating battles in those, especially probably the Wildcats and Hawks days.
Yeah, no, it was always tough going against Cody. You always play inside and out, and I always hated having to go out and guard the 3-point line. So. A tough matchup, and he had a great career. It's good to see him still involved in the basketball over here and on this podcast.
Well, yeah, mate, I always hated guarding you on the other end, so it's fairly mutual. No, look, we've had this discussion with Jesse and Sean as well, and I guess the one thing going against you guys was always tough, but it was always a lot of fun because you guys were always the standard of the league.
Oh, cheers, mate. Yeah, no, some great battles over the years, the Hawks and the Wildcats. So, it was good fun. Like you said, a lot of fun.
All right, Matty, so you're taking ownership of our Player of the Year award this year. There was only the 5 games over round 1 to start the season, but let's get your votes. We'll do a 5-4-3-2-1 system. Do you want to start with your 1 or your 5?
I'm going to start with my 1.
All right, who'd you go with?
The young kid, even though they didn't get the win, the young kid from Illawarra, Lockie Dent. He almost single-handedly got Illawarra a win.
Yeah, he did.
To come in such a big game and have how many points he had on a high percentage shooting clip. I think they even had Justin Simon move to him to try and stop him, but that didn't stop him. So to see a young kid like that in such a big moment step up was amazing.
No, great call. And it's great to give someone like that the acknowledgement as well. So I like it. Who'd you go with for the 2 votes?
2 votes, Majok Dang last night. He really turned it for Cairns. He's a veteran now. He's been in the league for a while, and he really got Cairns moving last night. And like you told me, they're going to shoot 45 threes, and they definitely lived up to it. They got him in the third, helped him in the third quarter. That last quarter, I'm too sure was going to help him. So look out teams if they can shoot like they did in that third quarter, they're going to upset a lot of teams.
Yeah, great to see Majuk do that as well. He's now a leader on that team as well. He's their most experienced player, so great to see him step up. 3 votes?
Bryce Cotton. Obviously Bryce is Bryce, but was it Del Reed? He broke a record for the Wildcats in a 40-minute game or something in terms of points, rebounds, assists, and steals. So obviously Bryce he's the engine of that Wildcats team. So if he's playing well, they're always going to be tough to beat. So he gets the 3 votes.
What about the 4?
Kyle Adnam in the first game against Tassie, 30 points. Someone so small, he gets the job done, and obviously they've got quite a few injuries, and he really stepped up and put that team on his shoulders. And it's great to see the confidence that young kid has. Hopefully he continues that on when they get a few players back. But for him to come out game one like that and shoot the way he did and run that team, it's really going to help.
Now, we haven't talked about this in advance, but I'm going to go out on a limb and guess that your 5 votes might go to the man that's replacing the MVP from last year.
Hey? Yeah, yes, no, it is.
I assume it's Derek Walton from the Kings.
Yeah, that guy. It was always going to be tough to replace last year's MVP, but he's come in and he's up for the challenge, it looks like. He's really going to determine how far Sydney go, and if he plays like that, it's going to be a lot of fun for Sydney and the league.
Yeah.
Just the plays he makes, is you just sit back and go, wow. So, there'll be a few nervous guys in the league when they have to play him.
Absolutely. Yeah, the Hawks had no answer for him. So very happy with those votes, Matty. We'll get them off you each and every week. Before I let you go, how concerned are you about your Jack Jumpers 0 and 2 already, and now that they have to be the first team to go over there and play in Auckland for the Breakers' return home?
Yeah, no, it's probably not the start they wanted. Finish they had last year, and they were such a defensive team last year, and they've already given up 84. I think it was 84 or 79, and then 100 points last night. Scott Roth talked about it after the game that they can't be fouling that many times.
Yep.
Teams go on the foul line 28 and 32 times. It's tough. Obviously, you get Magnay back, Steindl back, McDaniel's back. So they've got some guys to come back. But they started off slow last year, but they're no longer the underdogs now. So teams are going to chase them. They've got a good culture down there. And Scott's shown he's a great coach, so I'm sure he'll have them bouncing back. But yeah, it wouldn't be ideal to start the season 0-3, and it's a tough trip to New Zealand. The crowd's going to be fired up. They haven't had any basketball over there for a couple of years. So New Zealand, they pushed Melbourne, so they're unlucky there in the end. So it's going to be a big game for Tassie. You don't want to start the season 0-3, but New Zealand's going to be keen to get their win at home.
I know it's early days with Tassie, but what are your thoughts on their imports? Do you reckon that they should have tried a little harder to keep both imports from last year?
I think so. Obviously money comes into it, but successful this day and age, you've got to spend a bit of money. Yeah. And Josh Adams almost single-handedly won him a championship.
Exactly.
And the other import, the big fella, he was solid. He started off slow, but by the end of the year, he was one of their main players. So I think they should have kept them, at least for another year anyway, or a 2-year deal. To build that culture, you need to keep returning the same guys. Obviously, they kept their local contingent, but Josh Adams was something special, and I think they're missing his play already.
Well, they just don't have that go-to scorer that they did in Adams last year, which seems to be a bit of an issue when they go stagnant.
Yeah, there seems to be a lot of ball watching right now. Majet's a great point guard, but he's not going to win you games by shooting high points. So last year he could give it to Adams and he could create, and he was hitting some tough shots, but he's hitting them consistently. So it wasn't like it was a one-off. Like that final series he went the next level, and I thought it would have been great for Tassie to bring him back. Obviously, his asking price probably went up, but I'm sure you could go back and forth and find some common ground and work out a deal that suits both parties.
Yeah, I think so. And based on what we've seen of Doyle and Kelly so far, they're probably not the same level, and their defense obviously isn't what it was last year either. So, I mean, not only this week do they play the Breakers, they then come back home and play the Sydney Kings as well. Or actually, the Brisbane Bullets. They got the Brisbane Bullets, who are still looking for a win too. So it's going to be fascinating to follow them, but it's also going to be fascinating to follow your votes each and every week, Matty. So thanks for what you did in round one, and we'll do it again next week.
Sounds good, fellas. Have a good one.
Thanks, Matty.
Okay, back on I was always going to say Sixers Fix, Scott Ninnis. That was the show that we've done together for the last 3 years, but delighted to have you part of my show here with Cody on Hoop 7's Basketball Hustle. We'll be giving you the duty of naming our best team man winner each and every week, but we've got a lot to talk to you about right now, and after seeing what the 36ers did, it's not too long after you won your championship at the South Adelaide Panthers. You must be feeling on top of the world.
Pretty excited, thanks boys. Yeah, look, obviously coming back my first year back in the NBL1 with the team that I grew up being part of, and winning the championship was beyond belief. But then the 36ers going out and beating the Phoenix Suns yesterday, I reckon you would have got some pretty decent odds on that, boys. So obviously it's a historic feat. First NBL team to beat an NBA team. But I think leading into the season, what it's going to do, for this city from a hype point of view and getting bums on seats, it's very exciting. And obviously, we've had some pretty up and down seasons, to be fair to say, putting it politely, over the last few years. But the sense of that we've got when you look at the 3 imports we've brought in this year is something that is quite exciting. That's for sure.
Well, speaking of the 3 imports, how nervous are you that some of them might not be coming back to Adelaide? They all played so well over the weekend and certainly put their names on the map.
Absolutely petrified, thanks, Cody. Yeah, look, it's one of those ones like, I thought we'd give a good account of ourselves. I think, we've got a good team. They're going to play an exciting brand of basketball. When I saw that, Phoenix were trotting out Chris Paul and Booker and Nathan, you get a little bit nervous. But, they almost played a little bit too well, didn't they? When Randall's hitting, those threes, not just in the NBA 3-point line, but, the range that he showed was quite incredible. To hit 9 threes, is unbelievable. And Randall, with his size, has already had a bit of a look in with the Boston Celtics earlier on. I'm a little nervous now, it's... And you wouldn't blame them. And those guys have got NBA out clauses, and teams that are looking to sort of top up and get some players that can do some fairly specific things. Obviously shooting's a very important part of them. So I hope they just didn't play too well. Maybe take a backward step, and CJ might give them a DNP on against OKC. Who knows? So.
Now, Scott, each show that we've done over the last 3 years, I continue to remind you that you're the only man involved with every Adelaide 36ers championship. So the club means a lot to you. You've just been included to the Hall of Fame, obviously, earlier this year as well. I mean, for somebody who has such a love for the 36ers, what does a result like this do for the club on the international stage? What do you think it means?
Well, I think it's a bit more than that, mate. I think what it does for Australian basketball in general, it shows that, there's a lot of us that, have been involved with basketball for a long time. And, we know that, when you talk about the absolute top flight players in the NBA, that they are in a league of their own. But, the further you get down the bench, there's not a lot of difference. And we've seen that with, NBA players that have come out and played in the NBL that perhaps haven't done all that well, and obviously there's a lot of guys who now are going from the NBL to the NBA. So you're not talking about a chasm in talent. So I think what it does is it really stamps the legitimacy of Australian basketball, and I think that's obviously exciting going forward. I mean, who knows? We might be able to drag an NBA team out here for a pre-season game at some stage. But I think it really does legitimise Australian basketball and NBL, and what's happening here over the last few years, and it is very exciting, obviously.
Now, Scott, a lot of change on the NBL TV commentary side of things coming into this season, and a couple of our old mates on the show, Sean Redditch and Alex Loudon, haven't made the cut. But in Adelaide, how did Brett Maher get chosen ahead of you?
It was a beggar's belief, mate. Like, you just got to wonder. I reckon he might have just pipped me with his career, just slightly. Three Olympics and, captain and finals MVPs. But no, it's exciting. It's, my ambition now is to plough him full of red wine in the sponsors' room before the game, and anything could happen during the game. But no, it's good. Brett. I'm biased because he's my mate, but I've always felt that I know what the research he does when he does any sort of commentary gig or emceeing or anything like that. And when you listen to some of the clowns that have been trotted out in the commentary over the last decade or so, you sort of scratch your head and wonder why, someone like him, hasn't been a more regular, commentator. But no, it'd be great. We know he'll do a good job, and it'll be very exciting.
Before we have a look at what happened in the NBL this past weekend, Talk to me about your NBL1 championship at South Adelaide. Your first season back at the club that you grew up playing at, your dad had a strong history at. What did it mean to you to win that championship? Obviously, Cody knows what it's like to win a championship at his local club, doing it with his dad a couple of years ago. Talk me through that whole experience.
Oh, look, it's a weird one for me, having been out of the game from a coaching perspective for so long. So, my last coaching gig was with the 36ers in 2010. So it's been 12 years since I've coached at any level, and 18 years since I've coached in what is now the NBL1. So I didn't really know what to expect. I mean, I was confident that what we'd implement would work. We really had only two changes to a team that finished ninth and went 7-11 last year. Now it did help that one of those changes ended up being best player in the competition. To be fair to say, that helped. But that once again, that as you know, recruiting is part of coaching, and to get someone who we knew was familiar with the league in Jeremy Smith and knew was a great teammate and a ultra competitor was fairly exciting. So once again, I didn't know a lot about the competition. I didn't know a lot about my own team, but as we sort of got further and further into the season, I knew we had a group that would never give up. Even when we found ourselves in holes, we just continued to just chip away and had a never say die attitude. So, we finished in third position. We had to play Forrestal that, everybody predicted would win the championship this year. Daniel Johnson played for them, and we know what he's capable of at an NBL level, let alone on an NBL1 level. And, we managed to beat them twice on the way to the championship. So, I guess my charter coming back in this year was to get the team back in the playoffs. Not just this year, but every year. And the good teams do that. The good teams don't ever seem to bottom out. They always make the playoffs and always give themselves a chance. To win the championship in the first year was just beyond belief. And it's finally sunk in now. The club hasn't made... it's made the playoffs twice in 24 years, and it's been 25 years since we won a championship. So, this is the first year we've made the playoffs since 2008. I think the enormity of the achievement is sinking in. And as you said, to do it with a club that I started playing for when I was 11 years old and finished playing, played my last game of basketball ever when I was 33. My dad was part of championship teams with South Adelaide back in the 60s before basketball was even trendy. It was, just astonishing. And, we had a bunch of, I guess the emotion it generated within the club and to get some, past players and coaches back, through our playoff campaign, Don Shipley and Ken Cole, both ex-36er coaches and had been involved in South Adelaide, to see, people like that coming back and the pride that they took in seeing us win, it's something that's very, very special. It's something that, I've been very fortunate to be involved in a lot of successful teams, but this one is right up there.
Well, you've gone 1 for 1. Did you think about hanging them up after that and just leaving on a high note?
Absolutely, mate. Mic drop, down, walk out the front door, never to be seen from ever again.
Thanks for coming.
It's the absolute ultimate. I signed a 3-year contract. I wish I'd just done it year by year now, and I just would waved off, like give them the clean wave as I walked out the door. But yeah, look, we set a fairly high standard for ourselves now, and we're pretty much underdogs. Well, not pretty much. We were underdogs in every finals game we played this year, and one of the Forrestal games, we were $4.50 underdogs. Now, I'm not sure in a 2-horse race how you do that, and it's probably lucky we're not allowed to bet on basketball, because I might have had $1 or $2 for that. But we've set a standard now, and I guess what I'm saying is we obviously won't be underdogs next year. We'll be the ones that have a bullseye on our back, and we're going to hold I guess our exit meetings this week with the group, and I would expect won't be a lot of change. But once again, you can't sit and rest on your laurels either. I mean, we need to get better. We weren't the tallest team in the competition, and we weren't the most athletic team by any stretch of the imagination. So they're areas that we will look to, tinker with and try and put, a few extra pieces of the puzzle and, try and do it all again next year.
Now, Scott, your involvement in the show this year is going to involve picking the best team man each and every week from the NBL. So we called this award the Galen Award last year in honour of Galen Young, a Perth Wildcats championship winner who unfortunately passed away far too early, but we thought he epitomised everything that this award was meant to be about. Last year our winner was Antonius Cleveland, and you've now got him there in Adelaide. So the idea of this award is to go probably to the guy who helps their team win, not necessarily by having to score the most points or doing all the flashy things, but the guy that has the biggest impact on their team winning. Now, I don't know how much time you've had to think about your winner from round one, but from what you saw across the weekend, does somebody jump out that you might like to throw out there?
Oh, look, as a little guy myself, and 6'2", I guess in the normal world is we're actually fairly tall in normal life, but as you know, on the basketball court, absolute short answer. So I'm always a big rap for the little guy. I thought, what Cole Adnam did was pretty special the other day. And people, I don't think they write him off, but every time he gets an opportunity to dart, through injury and whatever, he always seems to elevate his game up another level. And I really liked what he did the other day.
No, I think that's the perfect choice. If I had to pick somebody out that I had to choose, I think he would have been the guy. I mean, they were missing 4 of their probably best 6 players, and he stepped up and they beat the grand finalists from last year. So I think that's a great call. Do you have any memories of Galen Young before we let you go, Scott, now that you're going to be announcing this award in his honour each and every week?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, he was, he's the sort of guy you wanted on your team. He just, we've all had players that, everyone looks at the Bryce Cottons of this world and you take it back to the era that I played in with the Andrew Gazes and the Brett Mars and I use those 2 guys as an example. Those guys had people like Warwick Giddy and Robert Sibley, and here in Adelaide we had people like Rupert Sapwell and guys that just did, you don't win without those guys. The superstars are the one that's going to get all the accolades, but those guys in the background that, do the 1%ers and not necessarily always the stuff that shows up in the stat line are, absolutely worth their weight in gold. And, Galen was the sort of guy I would have loved to have had on my team, that's for sure.
No, that's why we've got you to do this award this year, Scott. So it's something we're looking forward to catching up with you each week to get your nominees. And it's good to still be working with you this year after what we've done on Sixers Fix the last 3 years. We'll wait and see what the 36ers are doing on that space and see what we're doing this year, Scott. But for now, thanks for joining us, and we'll do it again next week.
That is my pleasure, guys. Looking forward to catching up every week.
All right, Cody, back here on Hoop 7's Basketball Hustle, and it was good fun to catch up with Scotty and Matty and to get their awards for this week. You happy with the men that they picked out? You happy with Matty's 5-4-3-1, and you happy with Kyle Adnam as the Galen winner for this week?
Yeah, absolutely. I think so. I think Matty hit all the votes on the head. I'm glad he put Lockie Dent in there.
Yeah.
I think he certainly deserves some recognition, and I think the only one really that missed out was Ratham Mays. But look, it was a good round all over. So it was always going to be hard for him to pick just 5 guys out of that. But no, I think they were all spot on. And then, I'm very happy with Kyle as the Galen Award for this week.
And Scott was remarkably lucid as well. He hadn't quite dug into that bottle of red just yet.
Yeah, not quite. Maybe we'll call him a little bit later next week and get some more juicy stuff out of him.
What you do need to do is go on one of his premium wine tours over in Adelaide next time you get a chance, Cody.
Absolutely.
All right, so let's get into round 2, Cody, and it starts on Thursday night back in Wollongong. This is a fascinating game. So the Illawarra Hawks need to bounce back and win, but they're up against the South East Melbourne Phoenix team coming off that win against the Jack Jumpers. I don't think they'll get anyone back. There's still no Joe Cheese, still no Brokoff or Cal or Brown, but they didn't need them last week either, so this will be an interesting one.
Yeah, it will be. And look, I think Illawarra was a step ahead of where I thought they would be.
Yep.
So I think this will be a tough one. Again, like we said, Phoenix looked like they showed a lot more heart than they did towards the end of last season, this round. So, look, I'm actually really looking forward to that game. I think it's going to be a tough one. Phoenix have kind of had the Hawks' numbers in the past year and a half. So it'll be interesting to see how it goes because they've both got a bit of mix-up in their squads now, so a bit different. Look, I think I'm going to have to go with the Hawks for that one.
It's tough to see them losing 2 home games in a row to start the season. And in fairness, You almost feel like if they were playing anyone but the Kings on Saturday night, they'd probably almost win that game.
Yeah, for sure. And I think they would. They would. But, run into the champs and, they're running high. And, that was certainly a tough team to run into. But, look, Phoenix going to take it to them. They're definitely going to take it to them. So it should be a good game.
Friday night gets underway at Spark Arena in Auckland. We haven't been able to say that for a long time. It's going to be so exciting to just see how passionate and thankful everybody is to be in the building again. I mean, I think it's sold out. There's going to be, I think it holds just under 10,000 people there, so it's going to be packed out. They're going to be cheering for their team. They're going to be so excited to see the team in pink. I think pink's their home uniform.
I think so. Oh, they were in pink.
Or it might be light blue.
Yeah, it might be.
Either way, they're very, very fluorescent.
Love them. I love them.
No, they're great uniforms. Breakers have always had some great uniforms over the years. They do a lot of things right. I'm sure they're so excited to be back home and playing in front of those home fans. You're someone who's been away from home for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
What would the feeling be like to come home for them and to be playing in front of their home fans after, especially the guys that have been there for the last 2 years? What's that feeling going to be like?
Nerves, anxiousness, excitement, just everything. It's look, I think I'm excited, and I'm not playing the game, so look, I think it's going to be a heck of an event. New Zealand, like you said, do a lot of things right. So I think it's going to be, they're going to put on a show, and then the game's going to be awesome as well. Look, I wouldn't want to be Tassie, to be honest with you. I think it's rough. It's rough that they have to go into New Zealand as their first home game or first away game for them. And I think New Zealand do get the win on that one, purely riding the wave of emotion.
You're right. It's absolutely horrible timing for the Czech jumpers, isn't it?
Not good.
They're 0-2, and now they go into this sort of environment where the Breakers are going to be so fired up to not let their home country down. Yeah. They're going to want to mark this occasion with a win, and everyone's going to be so excited. I mean, if you're the Jack Jumpers, I'd probably equate it to trying to come into RAC Arena when that place is packed and you've got those 14,000 fans screaming in your ear as an opposition player. How do you try to block it out and try to focus as the visiting team?
It's tough. It's tough. It's something that you can't really do. You've just got to concentrate on the next play. And look, it's going to be really good for New Zealand, but I think it can also be one of those things where it becomes a bit of a disadvantage because you're too hyped up, too psyched to be part of it and in it. And I kind of hope it doesn't go that way. But look, I'm upset that Abercrombie isn't the one, isn't going to be out there playing because I think the reception there would have been awesome. But he's going to get his own homecoming all by himself, which I think is fairly well deserved.
The good thing about the way his injuries panned out is that I think he's going to be able to play home games a lot earlier than we expected with his eye injury. He's not going to be able to fly for up to the next 2 months, unfortunately, but he might be able to play home games within the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, and that'd be awesome to see. I hope that happens because it'd be... he's that emotional leader on that team, and
he might just have an eye patch on.
Exactly. There you go. So, no, look, I think this is going to be an awesome game, and like I said, it's going to be a bit of a spectacle over there, and I think New Zealand do get that one fairly handily.
I think you're exactly right. It's going to go either one or two ways, where the Breakers are too fired up and their anxiousness gets to them, or they can ride the wave of momentum and completely blow the Jack Jumpers away. Second up on Friday, fascinating game as well. So the Sydney Kings back home, they'll raise their championship banner, so it's going to be another big occasion. You'd think another big crowd there to witness it, but Aaron Baines and Nathan Sobey and the Brisbane Bullets come to town, and they'll be pretty desperate to make up for their first up loss, and pretty sure they won't be having 24 turnovers again.
No, you wouldn't think so. You wouldn't think so. And look, that seems to be something that happens when you come to Perth is your turnovers seem to go through the roof a bit. Look, again, that's a tough one. Going into the champs' house while they raise the banner and after a loss coming to Perth. So they drew the short straw with the early schedule, coming to Perth and then going to Sydney. But look, I think Brisbane is going to be that work in progress, and I think people need to be patient with them as well. You saw Duncan probably a bit up in the air with his rotations as well. I don't think anyone played more than, I think it was 25 minutes or something like that.
You're right. We talked about Tanner Krebs last week, and we both thought he was going to have a big season, and he started the game on fire, hitting those 2 threes in Perth, and then it felt like he almost didn't see the court again in the second and third quarters, and then he comes on in the fourth quarter and knocks down another shot. Yeah, I mean, it felt like their rotations were a little bit out of whack, and Nathan Sobey doesn't quite look, at full health, and surprisingly, Jason Kadee had a bit of an off night too.
Yeah, look, and I think it's one of those things that the commentary team hit the nail on the head and said, look, it's all well and good to have all these stars, but it's hard to find a rhythm when you're in and out every few minutes. So again, it's a bit of a learning curve with this squad for Duncan, trying to figure out who's going to work with who properly, and because I'm sure he hasn't had everyone for preseason. You know, people have been hurt. You'd have guys in and out, and again, like it just. I think everyone needs to be a bit patient with Brisbane until they figure out exactly what their rotations are going to be, and once they start gelling. But I think they're going to come good at some point. But look, I think Sydney get this one, especially unveiling their banner.
Yeah, it's hard to see that they'll come in and spoil their celebrations. 2 more games on Saturday. Southeast Melbourne Phoenix, short turnaround, but it's not a massive flight either from Sydney down to Melbourne. No. But they play at home against the Cairns Taipans, who they deserve to be on a high after what they did on Monday night. This is another fascinating one.
It is, and it's all going to come down to defence for Phoenix if they can stop them. Because look, it's tough, and Cairns' first game of the weekend, Melbourne or Southeast Melbourne, basically playing a back-to-back, you know, with travel in there, so that's going to be tough. I don't like betting against Phoenix twice in a round, but I think the way Cairns play, I think they'll eventually come fourth quarter, they'll just be too much up and down for Phoenix. So I think Cairns get that one.
Then second up, talk about backing it up on a tough double header. The Perth Wildcats remain at home, but the Illawarra Hawks come to town having to have played at home on Thursday night and then come to play in Perth on Saturday.
Yeah, definitely. And it always seems to be that way. You always seem to catch Perth in Perth on the back of a double header. So yeah, look, that's going to be a tough one. I think the Cats get that done at home, and I think that they're going to build as well. They're going to be one of those teams that everyone needs to be patient with. Just guys getting their feet, and guys like Brady Manick, who is going to be a force in this league. He is going to be a force in this league. Didn't have a great shooting night, but
the shots looked actually pretty good though, didn't they?
Oh, they did. And it's such a quick release, and it's high. It looks really good, and it looks effortless. Like I said, he will be a force. He's just once he figures the league out properly, and once they I guess get their rotations right, and new head coach, new system, all that sort of stuff. So, but look, I think Perth win that.
It's a nice rotation. If you can rotate between Blanchfield, Travis, and Manick, when they're all firing, it's going to be tough to stop.
Yeah, absolutely. And then you got Jesse coming off the bench with that.
Who had a massive night.
He was awesome.
He hadn't played all pre-season, and then he comes out and has a Jesse night and puts down 14 points and takes a couple of charges and does Jesse things.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's why they wanted him back and tried so hard to get him back. Yeah. So yeah, look, Perth get that done.
2 more games on Sunday. First up, based on what we've talked about, this could be a battle of winless teams, so it's a big one down in Hobart again. The Jack Jumpers against the Bullets. You wouldn't want to be the team that loses this game if they've already lost earlier in the weekend.
Yeah, exactly. And this is a tough one to pick. This is a tough one to pick. And look, again, I don't know if Tassie's going to have any of their guys back. Probably not. Yeah, look, I just think they're a step behind right now, just from the 2 games that we've seen. I think Brisbane have too much firepower for them. Look, it's a very tough one to pick. So look, I'll go with Brisbane, and I think Tassie is going to make some strides this weekend, but I still don't think they're quite up to it yet without some of their main guys coming back.
Familiar territory for Harry Froling, going back down to where he won a NBL1 championship just about a month ago.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm sure he'll be excited to do that.
Then second up on Sunday, and this is a big game too, Melbourne United, who I think we're all maybe a little bit surprised how good they actually looked last week. Still got Shea Ely to come back into that team, but no, they played really well to get that win over the Breakers. And then the Sydney Kings, another team, almost playing a back-to-back, having played from Friday night to a Sunday afternoon game.
Yeah, and that's going to be an interesting one if Shea Ely's not playing, which I don't think he will be.
No, I mean, he seems to be really struggling to shake off the symptoms of the concussion that he's suffering.
Yeah, which is frustrating because that would have been an awesome little matchup.
Yeah. Well, watching him, hound Derek Walton would have been a lot of fun.
So yeah, it would have been good to see his first real defender. Yeah. And I think that I think Melbourne actually get that one because, like I said, they're actually better than or more ahead from where I thought they'd be.
Absolutely. And we'll wait and see if we ever see that Nate Jarwai signing as well.
Yeah, there you go.
Monday night, the round wraps up. Cairns Taipans, first home game of the season. If we're excited by what they can do on the road, I'm really looking forward to seeing what they can do in front of their home fans and light up that building up there. They take on the Perth Wildcats team who, again, it's another team with a pretty short turnaround. Play on Saturday night, then you've got to fly up to Cairns to play on Monday. Yeah, definitely. And look, it's going to be interesting to see how Perth can go guarding the Cairns style of play.
always been renowned for their defense, and I think especially under Riley now, I think that is more of a main focus. So that's going to be really interesting, and I think that should be a heck of a game as well.
Yeah.
It's not often you see teams put up triple digits against the Cats. So, but look, I'm excited to see Cairns play at home. Bit of a flip of the coin for this one for me. Look, I'll go with the home team. I'll go with Cairns.
And then aside from the NBL action, Cody, Friday morning local time for us, the Adelaide 36ers get to try to not bounce back, but replicate what they did against the Suns. They take on the Oklahoma City Thunder and Josh Giddey as well, which is going to have its own little piece of fascination as well. Yep. Any chance at all that the Sixers can do it again?
Look, I think it's going to be a tough ask. It's not often you see teams shoot that well and then come out a few days later and
do it again.
And keep it up. So look, different squads. I think Giddey's going to have a lot of fun playing against his old squad. But look, I think OKC get this one done. Yep. And it'll be interesting to see how CJ uses these guys. Yeah. Lots of minutes and then having a flight back as well. Yep. I think look, he's not gonna pull any punches by any stretch of the imagination because the competitor in him won't let him do that. Yes. But it's gonna be another fun game, I think.
As good as this experience is for them, how does it impact their NBL season when they try to start next week? Yeah,
look, I think it's tough. I think you come back, your first game is round 3. Yeah. You've got some teams playing 4 or 5 games already, you know.
And by the time they get home, they probably are only home for 3 days to prepare for their first game of the season.
Well, exactly. So, and then dealing with the jet lag, which is always fun. It's tough. It's a tough ask. And look, I think that, you know, as a professional team, you've just got to take what you can get, and you know, they'll obviously do all they can to be as well rested as possible, and hopefully they're not just in the normal seats on the way back, because that'd be a nightmare.
Yes, but, especially if you're Kai Soto or Daniel Johnson.
Yeah, exactly. So, but no, look, I think it does put you at a disadvantage, because then all of a sudden you've got to play double headers nearly every weekend just to catch up. So, but look, as a player, that's awesome. That's what you want. You want double headers. So you want to play games, and look, I think they'll be just fine. I think they'll be fine.
All right, Cody, we've covered a lot of ground. It was good to catch up with Scotty Ninnis and Matty Knight as well to get their awards underway. It's great to get your thoughts on everything as well, and even more thankful to Hoop 7 for making this possible once again, Cody. We'll see how round 2 pans out. We'll be back next week to wrap it all up. I'm Chris Pike, and I'll sign off and leave you with the final words.
Looking forward to another good round. It was a great start to the season, and hopefully it can continue that way. And then, good luck to Adelaide against OKC.